Hello, everyone. Have you ever received a text message from the opposite sex and wondered to yourself, what exactly does that mean? Or why is their text message so short? Why must they text me such long responses? Or simply, why didn't I receive a text back? My name is Maureen Ferguson, and my group is reporting on gender differences in communication. The purpose of my report is to show the gender differences in communication via text message, email, or any sort of electronic communications. There's definitely been a lot of research done on the differences between male and female responses when it comes to electronic communication. Most of my research came from websites such as Rajmi's blog, latpublishing.com, cosmopolitan.com, phys.org, the Journal of Children and Media, and various websites such as that. Most of the published websites and studies show that men's text messages have much more sarcasm and swearing in them, and women's messages have more support and affection. Males tend to send shorter messages that are centered around one subject, whereas women send messages that are longer, can contain more than one subject, usually have a beginning, a middle, and then some type of closing in their messages. Women tend to speak more affectionately through text messages, therefore they are more expressive in that type of communication, whereas men are more blunt and are more likely to send one-word answers such as the dreaded K instead of okay, or something along those lines. Women are much more likely to use emoticons in their messages because women tend to express their feelings in writing more, and men do not use emoticons as much because they feel that emoticons can be emasculating and they don't feel the need to use them. A large percentage of women feel that it's absolutely necessary to have an ending to a electronic communication, such as a bye or a see you later, whereas men don't feel that it's necessary to end conversations all the time, and sometimes they feel, depending on a situational conversation, that it's just assumed that the conversation has ended. These results all seem to run true when it comes to teenagers and texting regarding the different genders. Teen girls view text messages by teen boys as short and brisk, whereas the boys seem to see girls' text messages as being overly long, prying, and containing unnecessary information. In conclusion, I think it's safe to say that women, just because a man doesn't text you, doesn't mean that something is wrong. They don't text back all the time right away. And I would say to men that just because a woman may feel the need to text you more often than you feel the need to text her does not mean that she is being needy. Recognizing the differences that I explained in this report and the use of electronic communication and how our genders are different will help us learn how to communicate with each other better. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dominic Galano, and my group members and I chose to do a presentation on the topic gender differences in communication. People use gender communication to express their feeling, emotion, or even opinions, whether it's through verbal or nonverbal use. My group members and I all thought this was an excellent topic to talk about just because of how diverse it is, not only through the body language, but through nonverbal and verbal use. This is something that happens in everyday life, and we thought it would be interesting to talk about. We have Maureen and Danielle and I, those are our three group members, and we all chose to talk about something different through the gender differences in communication. Danielle chose to talk about the verbal gender differences in communication. Maureen chose to talk about the text messaging males and females have their differences, and I'm going to do the nonverbal gender differences in communication. Based off my own personal experience, or even some research that I've done on Google to give me more in depth about the gender differences. So to get into my first point, I'm going to discuss the men smile less than women. I see it all the time where a lot more guys are a little more grumpy. I see it on a daily basis at the restaurant. I see a lot more women smiling than a guy, than a male. So that's one big thing that males and females have from each other. Second, women play with their hair and clothing and place their hands on their lap, while men use a lot of hand gestures when it comes to face-to-face conversations. When it comes to crowding, I see it all the time. A lot more of men have negative intentions when it comes to big groups of crowd. Say you're at a bar and a guy bumps you. As a male, you're going to have a lot more negative intentions to react to something bad. So whether it's starting a fight or something, when it comes to women, seems like they don't care if there's a lot of guys around them or a big crowd. Men use a lot more touching than women as a sign of sexual intention. And then it seems like the woman uses touching as a sign of friendship or sympathy towards one another. So that's a huge difference that happens on a daily basis. You see it all the time where men want to touch a woman more. Women tend to use more facial expressions to express their feelings and intentions towards one another. So that's a big one as well that I found. And then men will look into the woman's eyes that they are talking to, and women will look into the eyes when they are listening. So if a woman's not listening to you, she will not look you in the eyes. That's one big thing that I found. And then my next point is, my 7th point would be females stand an arm length apart when they're talking to one another. And then while men talk a little bit further from further distance. So when it comes to one-on-one conversations, you'll see girls talking an arm length distance, so about this far from one another, while guys will be a lot further and raise their tone of voice. That's just how it is. I mean, I don't like to stand too close to another guy that I'm talking to, so it's a true fact. And then my next point is that men seem to take up more space than a woman. So say you're at the library studying, for example, you will see a guy that needs a lot more room to place all his book bags and books than a woman. So a guy needs a bigger bubble to be around. Those are basically my key points, and it was a good presentation to do on. I just like the topic to do a discussion about, so we'll see how it goes.
So, do men and women speak the same language? According to popular author John Gray, men are from Mars and women are from Venus. My name is Danielle Kuznia. I will be presenting on gender differences. My topic is verbal communication. As Oxford author, language professor Deborah Cameron puts it, the sexes communicate differently because of the way the brains are wired. The female brain excels in verbal tasks, whereas the male brain is better adapted to visual and mathematical tasks. To put it simply, women like to talk and men prefer actions over words. Women are more verbally skilled than men, and conversation patterns between men and women differ. Men and women as a group talk in particular ways. Women's language is more indirect and subtle than men's. Their pitch differences often reveal more about them, and women tend to tag declaratives on the ends of their sentences, things like yes or no. The rising intonations, as they can sometimes make their statements sound like questions. Women often avoid definitive statements, metaphors, superlatives, such as nothing is working, and men take these literally since male language is more absolute than female language. Women say, I don't know, or I'm not sure, much more easily than men, and sometimes these expressions are interpreted as a lack of knowledge. And that's because women tend to not give definitive answers if they're unsure of the answer to the question. Men speak to both exchange information and establish status, and men are more comfortable giving advice and information than they are receiving it. Minimal responses such as nods, yeses, mm-hmm, are really common features in conversations. These responses often lead to male and female miscommunications. It can lead to disagreements, arguments, etc. This is because for women, this response simply means that she's listening. It doesn't necessarily mean that she agrees. For men, it has a stronger meaning, such as, I agree with you. When they say it, they mean it. They're acknowledging the question. As author Marianne Turney and Ruth L. Sittler puts it, that since men and women don't have the same reactions and rules of talk, they can easily misread each other's motives in meetings. Unfortunately, this is something that commonly happens as the differences between men and women communicating, they can be vast with verbal communication. There are many types of communication between men and women. Verbal communication is just one of them.